Welcome to this episode of Small Bike Stuff. This is take two. We'll be totally honest. We had some, we'll say, technical issues at the start. But I've got Matt, who is a New Zealander who's living in the UK, who is small bike mad. I'll just touch base on a little bit of my background. I've known of Matt for a long time over the internet. A couple of years ago, he sent me some merch. I never sent some back, and I was scared to ask for this interview because I thought you'd be like, "Hey, man, there's a t-shirt. There's a t-shirt behind." Full disclosure, I didn't. After you sent me merch, I gave away my last stuff before I got yours. I never have never printed anything since. And I actually hit up a whole bunch of my mates recently and said, "Does anyone have a shirt they've never used?" And I got this sent back to me about a week ago. So I promise I'll get you something someday. But look, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in the UK and how you've become so obsessed about small bikes.
Well, it started. I left New Zealand when I was about 28. I lived in Takapau for quite a few years, and then I moved over to London with a broken heart, trying to find something that would sort of fill that void. And so ended up in the UK and travelling. And I started out on big bikes, and big bikes was what everyone was riding. You know, there was no really small bikes and stuff. And did quite a few trips around the world and through India and into Central America, Panama, and everywhere. And then I hit Vietnam, and that's when that just went pear-shaped, mate. Absolutely pear-shaped. Ended up doing a trip in Vietnam on small bikes, and everyone was just parking their bikes in their houses and things like that. I think, well, that's the way forward. So small bikes came from Vietnam. That's where I got my I got my dick whacked.
Yeah, absolutely. That's honestly a really incredible background. I just before I called you, I had a quick jump onto your YouTube channel because I've never actually scrolled all the way back. I've looked at all your videos in the last, since CIA came out, which we'll talk about soon. I've watched everything since then. But I'm just having a look now. It looks like you went to India. The videos were uploaded 10 years ago now. So what was that? How long was that trip? Did you just jump over there and get a Royal Enfield? Was it that kind of trip, or?
That was an organised tour in southern India, Kerala. Yeah, there was 20 people. It was absolutely mental. It was like crashes on every corner, people getting taken out by buses, potholes, hitting the only telegraph poles in the whole entire country. It was mental. But India's either love or hate. And me and the missus were going along. We hit this pothole. She bounced off the back, feet underneath my armpits, went back down. We didn't say anything for like 5 minutes. Absolute just radio silence. And then we just started laughing, and that was it. It was welcome to India, And there's some people just crying; they just couldn't do it, But love India, man. India's cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, India's pretty big with bike tours these days. Still with a lot of like medium size 350 Royal Enfield Himalayans and stuff. But they also have the big tuk scene there, or rickshaw scene, which I'd like to point out because I'm a rickshaw tuk aficionado. That they are not the same ones as you see in Thailand. They're an entirely different beast, but. Paraphrasing from there, going on to a tuk-tuk related topic, you recently just got back from a couple of countries, but one of them was Sri Lanka. And you drove a tuk-tuk, rode, I don't know what we say.
Is it hard when you ride it, or do you drive it, or you're in it, or you're out of it? I'm not too sure. Yeah.
I
had the red one.
It's, that was obviously not actual size, just in case anyone was wondering. But yeah, so you've done a fair amount of bike traveling, and just kind of, I think, adventuring in general. Bikes are a great part of your life, as they are with mine. But it seems like you're a pretty adventurous dude. So, how long have you been living in the UK for? So you're based in London, are you? I mean, that's for me, for a Kiwi that's never been there. London's just this big entity that doesn't really. Yeah, I can't quantify where you are. Like, are you in a busy part? Are you in a small part? What's your daily life like?
So I'm in London. I'm in south of the river, a place called Greenwich. So GMT, so where time starts, Greenwich.
Yes.
Next to the water. I've been here for nearly 23 years, I think it is. But I've been in Greenwich for nearly 22 years, and it's a place I call home now, and access a lot of stuff. London is a busy place. London is the most dangerous place in the world to ride a motorcycle. Absolutely, it's absolutely incredible. There's multiple nationalities with different driving and riding characteristics all merged into one. And if you can ride in London, you can ride anywhere in the world. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. If I had to generalize riding a motorcycle in London, my only exposure is the Royal Jordanian, who rides around and rev bombs people at intersections. And then like the other thing is compilations of people getting their bikes taken by dudes in white vans. So I mean, like, is that a realistic? Like, is that a thing? Is the bike snatching thing quite real? Like, from someone who's over there, do you really have to pay attention to where you leave your bike at night? Like, I'm quite happy where mine is. I have mine in a locked shed. I would never worry about that. Once that door's locked, I don't ever think it's going to go anywhere.
Yeah, London's pretty bad for bike thieving. You lock your bike when you go and fill up with petrol and go and pay. That's how bad it is. They'll just
Really?
come in and push you away. But you do that as well because you don't want to be a statistic. But the bike thieves, they just go there with angle grinders, just cut the things off, and then off they go. I think it's died
Mm,
down a bit. It was quite horrific before.
mm.
Leaving your bikes outside is a no-no. All my bikes, I'll obviously we'll add a clip in here, mate. But yeah, my bike's in the
Yes.
lounge, mate. Yeah, I've got an understanding missus.
Good.
She's a good girl. She's a keeper. Hard to find, but I found her. But yeah,
Yes. I have
but
seen those
yeah,
photos. That's awesome. We'll throw one over now. Yeah. That's awesome. So you've got a couple of bikes yourself. They're not the first small bikes you've ever owned, I think, or is that Honda Cub? Have you had that Honda Cub for a long time?
yeah. The Honda Cub is the first small bike I've owned. Yeah, and obviously that came from
Interesting.
our mutual friend Ed March.
Did you get that from him,
No, but
or
that's
did
like
that
that
the
was the
inspiration?
bike. Yeah, like you got back from Vietnam. What small bike can I get? Saw Ed March. Saw he put a Liffin 125 in it. Thought, well, that's the way
Yeah.
forward. Mate. Yeah, so the C90, which is running a YX 150 in it now. It's had multiple engines.
Okay. That's really interesting. I first found out about Ed March in 2013, 2014 when I was living in Southeast Asia, and he had started uploading videos in 2011 was when he started this trip. Shipped his bike to Malaysia and rode north and went all over the show and did a whole bunch of cool stuff. And that's where I saw all that kind of stuff, and I was like, well, I'm living in one of the countries he went to. Maybe I should kind of investigate the reality of small bikes outside of just a daily commuter, because that's all they were for me over there. That was just the main form of transport. Everyone starts on bikes, and like you say, London's the scariest place in the world to ride. I've actually felt more comfortable riding in Asia because everyone starts on bikes. Everyone's subconsciously aware. They're always looking around and trying to make sure that they're making room for the small bikes. So you got the C90. That's been through so many changes, if I can recall correctly, from Small Bikes Big Adventures, which is a Facebook group you're a part of. You've been using a smart carb on that recently. Can you explain a smart carb to me? I don't know what that means. I've got a basic understanding.
Yeah, well, that makes two of us, mate. Yeah, I bought it because no one else was putting them on Cubs, mate.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's basically a carburetor that works as like fuel injection does. Without the fuel injection, it atomizes the fuel more efficiently, and it just runs on
Okay.
a tapered needle. And as the tapered needle goes up, more fuel goes in. But when you hear it atomize, because obviously the carb's got to come out the side on the C90, you can hear it, and the noise of it's incredible. It revs up quicker, it runs really smooth, and you don't need to. The tuning's just really basic. It's just put down the lever,
Mm.
a knob, click it a couple of times, and that raises and heightens the needle.
You had that sent away recently
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do something else. Just explain
Obviously,
that. What? I've never done that before. Sent my carb away to get more work done.
yeah, yeah. When you pay this kind of price, you don't expect them to have to send them back to the factory to be redone. But they come from America, and the moisture in the air, the content is a lot lower than it is in the UK. So what was happening is that the moisture was sticking to the float, not the float, to the slide, and causing a vacuum. So what they had to do was put dimples in the slide to reduce the
Mm.
vacuum hold on it. That
Mm.
makes sense. So yeah,
Yeah.
what was happening? It was sticking. So you were going through London, and it's going, "Wah!" And I had to ride it on the kill switch on the key because it was just you couldn't ride on the clutch.
Yeah.
It was an absolute nightmare. So, but the guys were really really good there at Smart Carbs. And they said, look, just send it back. We've done this before. If you want to ride it in wet conditions and things like that, we'll just dimple it out. So I've just got it back after coming back from Laos. It got sent away, so it's going out on it soon, and then I'll obviously upload a video of how it's going. So yeah,
I was about to say that if anyone wants to I should have started with this, but Kiwi Media on YouTube. It's Kiwi Media, right? Not Kiwi. Yeah, it's Kiwi
yeah,
Media.
Kiwi Media, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
They're
Yeah,
like
check it out
CB
on
Media.
YouTube. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. My initials are CB, so
I know.
what do
How could you
I?
miss out, mate? I mean, come on, man. That was a golden opportunity.
I
Been
know, I
around
know.
long enough.
Hindsight's a bitch, ain't it? But you know, it is what it is. I'll make do for now. You've got a lot of videos on your YouTube channel, Kiwi Media, going as far back as 10 years. So we might as well get back into chronological order. We talked about India. You jumped on. That was kind of a trial by fire, by the sounds of it, but guided. Vietnam, was that a guided adventure, or was that your first time on motorbikes, kind of doing it your own way?
That was guided as well. There's a group of us at
Okay.
KIWI. That was guided, but that was they've supplied the bikes,
Okay.
and they took us around the southern part of Vietnam. But that was just like those bikes. Where I think it was some kind of an early Chinese design bike, but there was
Mm,
no instruments on it. Like you just start it and go. It was
yeah.
yeah. But they win. They win. They were fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's about. I'm having a look now. You went in 2014, which I was over in that part of the world around a similar time. So back in 2014, we were about an hour's flight away from each other and had no idea. Riding motorbikes in Vietnam is something I've done, not Ed March or Top Gear spec. I've done one. I've hired a scooter in one city and ridden around there, and then taken a train to the next city and hired one and ridden around there. I think the thing that struck me most about Ho Chi Minh City, which is where I started, and you would have been as well if you went around the south, is there's more motorcycles than people in that place, and it's how do you even, until you've ridden in it, it's hard to explain.
You have to be there to comprehend how many motorbikes there are. And the idea is that if you walk across the road, you have to be like, it's the flow of water, they say, where you
Mm,
walk across and everyone just sort of goes around you. You can't stop because you'll cause an accident.
yeah.
That in Ho Chi Minh is just the sheer numbers of bikes is you can't put a number on it. It's
No,
millions.
it's the personification of organized chaos. It just works. It really, really works. And like you said, I think buses are the only exception. And like big trucks, you don't walk in front of them. But if it's a normal car, if it's a taxi, if it's a motorcycle, yeah, you just got to make a straight line. I mean, you can jump on YouTube. There'll be thousands of videos of it. Everyone's fascinated by it and generally records it and sends it to their friends when they see it for the first time, which I did. And yeah, it's just one of those incredible things. So you from there went back to the UK. You got a small bike. You've done big adventures, and my first exposure to you doing a big adventure was CIA adventure, which is Cubs in Africa. So you rode from where you are now, I think,
Yeah,
supposedly,
yeah. Rode
if
from
I recall
London.
correctly. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I rode day one. I broke down. I didn't catch the ferry. Didn't even make the ferry, mate. So I ended up. My mates got on the ferry, went across to Europe. So I had to catch another ferry, which was down south, and that's when I bumped into Ed March randomly on the
Ah.
side of the road in a van. He was beside me, looking at me. I'm looking at him, going, "That's Ed March," and he's going, "That's a C90." That was just one of those random facts.
That's amazing.
When you're on a cub, random shit just happens all the time, mate, and it's good stuff
Yeah.
as well. But
Mm.
yeah,
So
so
what I was gonna
yeah,
say,
just
what's the logistics of that kind of trip? Like, you had to organize a lot of it. Like, I organize all my trips beforehand. I'm one of those people that likes to plan everything, and then usually when I turn up, nothing goes to plan. But at least I had an idea of what to expect. You can't just. I mean, you could just ride through Africa on a whim, I guess. But like, you've got to go. I can't think of the geography. What countries did you go through to get to the somewhere to then go across the water? Surely.
so you basically you go from the UK to Santander or Bilbao to Spain, go straight across. Otherwise, you've got to go
Okay.
to France and Belgium. It's just a ball ache that trip. So you go to Spain. Spain is the same length as the UK. It's about 900 miles long. How long is New Zealand from tip to bottom?
Not. Not. 1,600 kilometers, I think, in the length. Let's have a quick Google. This could come up. 1,000 miles. Yeah, 1,000 miles long. Yeah,
Does not.
1,600
So
k's.
so
Yeah.
New Zealand is the same length as the top of for the length of Spain and the length of the United Kingdom. So you
Okay.
rode that, and then they got you to Algiers, which is the port, and then you
Mm,
go across to Tangier Med, and then you're in North Africa just like that. It's really simple to get to North Africa from here. To be honest, it's only like a 4 day ride on a cub, which is it's not that bad a thing,
yeah,
But
and this is you're on a New Zealand passport doing all this as well, are you?
I know got a British passport, mate.
There we go. Okay,
Yeah, well,
sweet.
yeah,
And is this
you've got to do it
pre
on it.
Brexit or post Brexit?
Yeah. No, I got it a long time ago. We've got English heritage in it, so most of us have
Yeah.
got some
Okay.
sort of like
Sweet.
tag or that. So yeah, that
Yeah.
opens a lot more doors, a lot more. But Yeah, so you get into North Africa, and then obviously we're on the C90s, but the C90s, but they also all got Liffen engines in them, uh,
Okay.
which goes from a 3 speed to a 4 speed, 6 brake horsepower to eight. Was it 6 brake horsepower to 6 to 8? I think. Yeah, yeah, not much
It's
anyway,
got
but
eight or nine. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, on the little 125s and stuff. So yeah, into
Mm.
North Africa, which is just it's absolutely incredible. You know, everything just changes. The people change, the colours changes, the landscape, and then you hit the Sahara, and that's just like massive big dunes. And obviously, you're on a cub. You know what? As you see a dune, you want to climb it.
Yeah.
They
Yeah. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
power
And
up.
could you?
Oh yeah, well, one of my mates. We'll have to put that video in now.
Yes.
He did a jump on the dunes and just absolutely went over the top of it, cartwheel down the other side, and then yeah, the ginger, he's a bit of a hero, mate. Yeah, the ginger.
Yeah, absolutely. So, did you cross any borders within Africa, or did you just go into one country? The Sahara is there. You ride around for a bit. Cool, that's good enough, and go home. Like, what was the premise of that trip? How long were you away for in total from start to finish?
It was a 3 week journey,
Okay,
and Morocco is just one border, so it's all open. So once you get across
okay,
the Chandia Med, Morocco is quite a big country, and just keep riding down and down. Obviously, there's more countries underneath it, but we just hit
mm,
Morocco and did that, and more like up on the mountains and stuff, where it's just the people ride around on donkeys with massive, big, bright coloured hats, and these mud huts
yeah,
put together with bits of plastic. And but if you go towards Casablanca and up along the coast where it's more sort of westernized, you get your big high end shops. So you want to stick to the more of the away from it, and that's where the small bikes comes to its power, because you stay off the main roads. You don't take the motorways or anything like that. You hit the back roads, the
mm,
twisty windy bits, and that's where all the adventure begins. That's the
mm.
key to the small bikes, is your adventures are on the back roads, not on the big motorways.
Completely agree. Completely agree. And what's the reception like for small bikes there? Because in my experience, the reception of a small bike is either why are you on that here, or it's the entire opposite. No one cares because that's the normal mode of transport where you are. What's it like there? What are people riding on? What was the kind of daily driver for someone around that area, apart from a donkey?
Apart from a donkey, all the old Mercedes in the world end up in Morocco.
Okay. Yes.
They almost
Okay.
say, yeah, it's all small bikes out there, like little like two-stroke
Yeah.
Suzukis and stuff like that, and then the old Cubs. They're all out there on it because it's a mode for transport that never breaks down. It's easy to it's easy to fix. It's cheap fuel over there and things like that. So they're all on it. So, but when you see the big bikes out there and they see you out in Morocco riding that, and they go, "Where'd you come from?" I said, "We'll come from the UK." He says, "What, on that?" She says, "Yeah, we're going back on it as
Mm,
well." They're like, shocked.
mad.
It's
What's wrong with you?
yeah, yeah, and there's speed difference
Yeah.
as well. Like you're just cruising, and they stop, take photos. And they've got support vehicles following behind them on these big tours, and you're just plodding along, and you win the race. You get down there before them.
Mm. That's really incredible. Yeah, I have seen the video of and you made a t-shirt of it as well, of that bike crash, and you'll definitely throw it in before and maybe again now, and even like better slow mo, just because why not? But that's that moment safely, as long as you're alive, that's going to be immortalized forever. So you did the Africa trip, which was much more recently than some of your other ones. I'm just having a look now. South America, did you do a whole bunch in one go? Because there's something about Panama here, 2015, and then you went into Cambodia in 2016. So did you just do Panama itself, or what was that about?
Yeah. So what happens? Like you're in the UK and you do like a micro break. So you fly over in the UK wintertime. You fly to a hot destination, and that's where you go to what's kind of Central America to Panama, and you do your trip over there, and you fly back, and then you save up again for next year, and you fly it to another country, and that's how the micro breaks sort of work over here. It's more
Hmm.
affordable than trying to travel all around the world and trying to get the time off. So you're sort of doing a section at a time to where you can go. And obviously, the Panama was on a big bike, and Cambodia was on an old Africa Twin, which was the worst bike to take out to Cambodia because we were absolutely struggling on some of these places. And then, like mum, dad, kids were on the small bike, just going up through like the ruts and through Cambodia, after the
Yeah,
wet season, and they're looking at you going, "Why? What? You got all the gear? Why can't you go up the hill?" You're sitting there going,
yeah, yeah.
"Yeah, yeah, someone's struggling on this one." But yeah, Cambodia's.
How long did how long did you spend in Cambodia? And tell me the logistics of finding a reliable, like an Africa Twin there, because I've been to Cambodia before. I've been to Laos, I've been to all through Southeast Asia several times. Small bikes are much easier. If you go to rental places and you say, "Hey, I want an off-road bike," maybe an XR 150 or a Chinese 250 or something like that. So the logistics of you getting an actual Africa Twin is a bit mind blowing to me.
Yeah, a lot of places is we've been to. It's like French. A lot of French do got bike places out there. So yeah, they're not hard to find, and then you get support as well. Like if it breaks down, they'll get support out to you. So it's all going through bike shops. We obviously thought the Africa Twin was going to be the best bike out there. As I said, mate, yeah, probably not.
Maybe not.
But
Yeah. I
yeah, a lot of the
completely
bike
understand.
things. And then we did northern Thailand as well,
Yeah.
and that was through another French company, and that was the modern Africa Twin. That was lovely. You obviously been to Chiang Rai, up through there.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a good place to be at the moment. Like literally today, and at the moment they've got the world's worst air quality index. As of like the past 3 or 4 days. I think in New Zealand we've got an air quality index of 9. In Chiang Mai they're up at about 350 at the moment, which is technically unlivable. Like if you wear a white N95 face mask, it's brown by the end of the day. So it's one of those beautiful places that if you catch it at the right time of year, it's amazing. Unfortunately, right now they're in their hot season and burn off season, so that just combines to make an absolute mess of things.
Yeah, they do like a fire up northern Thailand, a bit like Laos as
They
well,
do.
mate. Laos on
Mm.
fire, mate. Unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. So you've done that elephant rally. That's something that Ed March did, and I found out about from him. It seems to be a bit of a rite of passage for anyone that rides motorcycles in the UK, and kind of maybe you know about Horizons Unlimited Adventures, you know about motorcycle travel, and elephant rally seems to be like, hey, if you haven't done this, do you even ride? Can you explain what it is, where it is, and it's snowy, right? It's cold. That's the whole point.
It's in Europe. It's in the middle of winter. It's a bit like the cold kiwi,
Okay.
but it's a bit like the cold kiwi, but it's just colder, and it's down in the bottom of Germany, down in the Austrian border, in the Bavarian forest. It's snow, ice, and it's full of Russians and Germans, and it's just noise. It's like Mad Max on steroids. Absolutely
Mm.
unbelievable. Yeah, and you're right. It's if you get there and survive, it's one of those boxes you can tick. And then if you obviously go on a small bike, you get more points for that. But riding
Yeah,
through the
yeah.
snow and ice on a small bike is a lot more easier than on a big bike, and it's a lot more fun as well.
You just kick yourself straight back up again, basically. So, yeah, it's
Yeah,
not a
yeah,
massive
yeah.
issue. Yeah,
So you
yeah. No,
go
that's
there,
really.
you get yourself you dig yourself a hole out of the snow, then you go and see the hay man, you get yourself a hay bale about £5, €5, and you put your hay down on there, and you put your tent on, and then you go and see another man, you get your firewood, and you can start a fire. And everyone sort of like revolves around like these little fire pits and stuff. But some of the gear some people take is unbelievable. They go in there like with their sidecars and stuff, just loaded up. You've got the big
Yeah,
barbecue, big like 44-gallon drums and all the bits and pieces. And you're like, well, you look at your setup going, well, that's a bit crap. And so you move on to the next one, and
yeah.
go and have their hospitality. But yeah,
It
we
sounds
went
like
there.
it sounds worthy. It sounds worthy of going to. That's for sure.
Yeah, Ed March did a tour there, so we were lucky we were there. And then Ed March had popped along with all his. He did a C90 tour,
Yeah,
and there was about 8 or 9 C90s he brought over, and yeah, saw him there set up the camp and stuff. But yeah, he got from people all around the world. I think he got some Australian couple that come over as well to do it. So people do
that's
travel
incredible.
to ride C90s around the world.
Okay, so let's kind of veer off for a second, not from small bikes, but into the world of internet small bikes. So you and I both are part of different groups that are to do with small bikes. Back in the day, so when I first got into small bikes, 2013, 2014, I came across a group called Camp Hill Chop Shop. And Camp
Gibbo,
Hill Chop Shop was
Gibbo.
James Gibson, Gibbo, and that group grew incredibly on the back of street cubs, and street cubs is a style that came from Malaysia first of all, and that's basically where people would get a C90 deluxe frame or a Honda Cub deluxe frame that has the tank inbuilt, like all of the cubs you get over there. But in New Zealand, we've got the standard frame as well with an unboltable tank, and people would put as wide as possible wheels. Basically, that was it. You put as wide a wheels as you could. And then people would kind of take that on board in the UK. The Street Cub style absolutely blew up there. It was just endless questions on this Facebook group. What's the widest wheels I can fit on a standard swing arm and a standard set of forks? What engine will bolt in? All of these things. How do I make my leg shield fit if I've got a widened front fork, and do I have to cut it, and all these kind of questions. I remember it like it was yesterday. On the back of that, I got a Honda Deluxe in Thailand with skinny wheels and just kept it simple. But where did you come into it? You obviously remember that group?
Yeah, 100%. So I've just got this cub, and then I've obviously wanted to go faster. And then Gibbo was doing these giveaways, I think, or like a raffles and stuff like that for the motorcycle 140s from the Isle of Man. And I was like, and
Yes.
that's the same thing. Would it fit? Do I have to mod anything? It's that same
Yeah.
question. What
Yeah.
power are you going on? And all that kind of bits and pieces. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to up my game, but still keep that really like standard kind of looking because it was all those massive customized bikes. And so that's when I went for the bigger engines. Well, let's get some more power out of this little cub and stuff.
Mm.
But Gibbo, yeah, definitely, he was on the scene, and that pushed a lot of people onto that. They still look amazing. That people are still kitting them out, and absolutely.
There was a guy at the same time, Paul Brody, that had a YouTube channel called On Your Bike, and he went quite. Big beard, yeah. And I used to talk to him on Facebook quite regularly, and he went quite hectic with that and put out a lot of videos, and that I think that kind of died off. But that was a big, massive thing. 30,000 people from all around the world basically asking the same questions tenfold every single day. It was a good time for about 2 or 3 years there, and it definitely kind of had its peak. Like they do with a lot of groups. And I mean, my group Moped NZ, that's been around for 2015, I think it existed now, and it's gone through periods of basically people caring enough to moderate it, and then people kind of getting bored and letting it go to the boonies a bit, and then you come back and you start moderating it again. Small Bikes Big Adventures, are you directly involved with that? Explain this thing to me.
Yeah, well, that was set up by Jonathan Lee, and then I came in as admin, and then it's just gone. Yeah, that started as a very very small group, and it's pretty much kind of like it's not as popular as what yours is over there, but it's kind of like that small bike going out on adventures thing for Europe and that. So
Mm.
everyone we do rides and things like that, like we've done to the Isle of Wight. We did another ride, went to the Dragon Rally, which is the UK version of the Elephant Rally. It's quite
Okay.
an active group, all out all the time. And it's just like getting people out there and say, look, you don't need to have a big bike to have a big adventure. As simple as that.
Mm.
You can have a big adventure on a small bike. So that's where Small Bikes Big Adventures come from.
Yeah, and it seems to be, it's really nice to see these kind of groups that are established, and I think anyone here that's watching that, if they've been a part of a few Facebook groups in their life, usually, eventually, it turns into a cesspool of absolute shit, with people arguing and fighting and doing silly stuff just for no reason. Like not straight away, but eventually. But this is a really positive environment, which I love to see, which I've tried to keep our group as well. And I would argue that Small Bikes Big Adventures has a much more solid following of people out there adventuring and riding. And that leads me on to riding in the UK itself. I view it as a small place, just like off the top of my head. It seems like you've got people in the north that think the south is such a long way away, and people in the Midlands don't want to go anywhere north. And but to me, it all seems quite close. So, what's the logistics of organising a ride? Like when you guys went to what would the UK equivalent of the Elephant Rally? What was that called?
The Dragon Rally. That was over in
Dragon Rally.
Wales.
When you do, okay, where do you meet, and how far do you ride? And are people coming from all over the country?
That Dragon Rally, yeah, people come from all over the country. A lot of people come from Europe as well, because that's like the one on the calendar next to
Mm,
the Elephant Rally. They do the Elephant Rally, and then they come out to UK and do the Dragon Rally. But yeah, it's not that far, and UK is it's stretched, but it's kind of like it's funny because it's really like it's really like New Zealand, like set out for landmass and things like that. So you
mm,
don't have to
mm,
travel that far, but so that's why the adventures are like you do it in the winter because they're a lot more challenging. But to go out for a ride, you obviously call it one another, and then one of the biggest key things is I like to use is the new TomTom Rider 550 twisty windy routes. Pop it on, where's the destination, and that's it. And you just end up in a middle of nowhere, on these byways and things like that. Which on a small bike you can get through them, but as I said again, on a big bike, you're challenged with it. You're like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. Small bikes, yeah. Road closed. There's no road closed for a small bike at all.
no,
You like
there's
you see,
not.
you go, yep, game on, challenge, mate, challenge.
Yeah.
We went up to Scotland. There's about four of us up to to a rally up there, and we had about seven road closures, and we were just like, yeah, this is great fun, absolutely great fun. And we just went through them. You just lift your bike or get around the side of it, and away you go. It's
Mm.
unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a one of our big yearly adventures we do at the end of each year. It wasn't the one most recently, but the one before that. There'd been a whole bunch of rain the weeks before, and we were taking an inland logging road instead of going around the main coastal road in a part of New Zealand. And we come up to this bit, and the whole road slipped away. But they've been working on it, so they've dug even more away. We had 2 support vehicles because it's quite a long ride. You're definitely guaranteed to have at least one solid crash, unfortunately. Which you prefer not to, but it happens. And yeah, there's always a few breakdowns, and you're in the middle of nowhere, so you can't just leave them there. And we come along, and there's this digger, and I was like, well, that's big enough for the bikes. So the 30 bikes rode through, and the support cars, you guys got to find another way. We'll see you there. And they ended up turning up quite a few hours later. So I do really appreciate the world of small bikes. But the UK, I guess you've got a different crowd in different ways. There's a lot of people over there that like put away their bikes for winter, like prep them for winter and lock them up, and that's it. Don't touch it. Shun the non-believer, just get rid of it for winter. Is that more location based and weather based, or is that just a UK thing because it's so cold?
For what? For the bikes being shut away for winter?
Yeah, it's not something you see here too much, like you don't see on New Zealand forums like, oh, it's winter. How do I keep my bike stored for winter? What do I do? It's just kind of, you just use them.
Yeah, the winters are quite cold here, but what they do is they put salt on the roads, salt to melt the ice and to stop the yeah. So a lot of people that want to preserve their bikes don't go out in the winter because it just heats it, just fuzzes everything up. But that's not the big bikes, but a lot of the small bikes don't really care. just go out and ride it, just whatever, mate. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, we've got salt on the roads over here, which is pretty crap. Yeah, it does eat away. Definitely, yeah.
It's something I hadn't even considered at all. Yeah, no, that makes entire sense. I think it's the same with like Canada and a lot of North America and stuff like that.
Yeah,
salted
they
roads.
A lot of it goes down. Yeah, and it's like you get back in, it's just fuzzed up. It's like leaving your bike on the ocean for a couple of days. Pull it out, it's still fuzzed up.
Not ideal. No.
All
right, so Small Bikes Big Adventures existed. That's a group. Somewhere along the way, was it Jonathan that created the Laos trip? Correct?
Yeah.
Or no. Yeah. Okay. I'm just literally remembering Facebook names here. So Jonathan seemed to spur on this idea. Like back in the day, the only people that were doing small bike adventures was basically the adventurists, which is a big, not the cheapest in the world, small bike adventure on like monkey bikes, maybe through Morocco, South America. Then Ed March came on the scene and did his a lot cheaper ones, which kind of had a guarantee of nothing organized, but you'll have the best time of your life. And then, there's a nice middle ground that Jonathan seems to have come across here. So do you know kind of the backstory of how, like, were you guys talking about this a long time ago? Where did that come from?
Jonathan was the big brains of that one, and he just said, well, let's do something over somewhere. Get away from the winter over here. Get away from the winter, find something warm, and that's still the key thing. And he was lucky enough to have an old schoolmate that lived over there, who's been over there for, I think, 14 years. And that was a help. And then there was another guy over there called Uncle Tom, Steve. And he did tours, but
Uncle Tom, but his name's Steve.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like Tom Jones, mate. He looks like Tom Jones. You look and go, that's Tom Jones. And what he do is, Steve, and he won't answer you. It's like,
Okay.
Uncle Tom. Oh, yeah. It's the madness. So he had that.
When did you find out about the trip? Like, what was the kind of sequence of events there?
That's been going before COVID. That was been on the back burner. Obviously, COVID shut a lot of stuff down, and they was trying to get it up and running, and it got shut down, and this is had to wait for Laos to be reopened again, and that's recently only just been opened. So that's been going for a couple of years. So he said, look, let's go over there. Let's take some people over there and hit it. And obviously, Laos is just an incredible country, completely different than Cambodia. It's got different sand. Hasn't got the red sand. It's got more of a whitey, powdery sand, not sand, dust. I don't know what you call it. But
clay. It's clay dust. I don't know. I know what you mean, though. It's intense.
And they don't do any road maintenance whatsoever at all. No. There's no roads over there. Even the flat roads have got massive potholes. I know we're on the Honda waves, and they got hammered, but they survived. They just they just went and went and went. They're only the 100cc waves. We had two Groms, and we had three Suzukis. The three
Okay.
Suzuki four strokes had to be rebuilt.
Okay, well, there you go.
Top
It
end,
says it all, really.
yeah.
Yeah. That's a really really interesting trip. And if you you've got a video about that. If you haven't, if you're watching this video and you haven't seen this video of that trip, pause, go to Kiwi Media, watch the few videos you've put out about it now. Won't take you too much time, and then come back and have a look, because what you'll really get a sense for is the absolute punishment that you guys went through. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but you really had to have at least ridden to the letterbox and back before on a motorcycle, because there was some hectic stuff going on. Tell me from the start. So you went straight from Sri Lanka to Vientiane, or however you call it, the capital of Laos. They've got an Arc de Triomphe copy there in the center of the city. It's kind of a weird place. It's still, I'd say, 10 years behind Thailand, if you want to quantify it that way. And you guys turned up, you just get bikes, you jump on them. Now what? Are you looking for a certain destination? Was there a predetermined route?
Yeah, there was. I'll get to the. Wrote some notes down for this one.
Good, because I want to cover it in detail. Take your time. Get those notes.
So it was a planned trip. It had. Do you know the history about the Arc de Triomphe in the capital?
I don't at all. I've got no clue about. I lie a little bit. I know that basically the French occupied and made colonies out of a lot of Southeast Asia, French Indochina, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. That's it. That's all I know. I know that you can get good baguettes in Vietnam for some reason, because the bakers left their knowledge behind, and that's where it stopped. So tell me the secret. I don't know anything about it. I'll throw a
What I
photo up
was
as well.
told, after World War II, they got gifted some money to build a new runway, and they took the money and they built that absolute massive big. It looks really cool, doesn't it? What do they call
It
it?
does.
Yeah, like the Arc de Triomphe.
Yeah.
They were supposed to build a runway, but they didn't. They just took
Okay.
the money, just that. Fuck them.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Why not? No, that's cool.
But
And I've been
this
up the
was,
top of that. You can walk up it. It's full of souvenirs and stuff like that. So you guys arrive in Laos. Chuck me through your notes. What did you guys do? What's the basis of the trip?
So we did what do you call the capital? Vientiane.
Vientiane.
Yeah, it's a
I've
hard one.
heard
That one.
45 different pronunciations, so
I think
whatever.
it was. Yeah. We hung out there, waited for everybody to arrive. We were there for a couple of days, based ourselves there. Then we got the bikes, and the bikes were from a corner shop around the corner, and they were still getting rebuilt when we were picking them up. It was that bad. It's just quality. We rode out of there. Some of them didn't have brakes, headstock bearings gone, the whole works, mate. And we ended up rebuilding them around the whole entire trip. They all got rebuilt. At some point in time, they all got built. Put them back, and yeah, they were better than when we left. So with that, I went to a place called Cassie. So we did a massive big loop, and then went to Myangmeth,
Mm-hmm.
then Pak Lai, and then Luang Prabang.
Which I have been to. I've been there, but I arrived in Luang Prabang. Just to give you context of what it was like for me to arrive there. You arrived with probably a sore butt, covered in orange dust. I had just come down the Mekong River for 2 days on a beautiful teak boat, covered in pillows and cushions, laying down while a wonderful, lovely Lao family cooked us food the whole time. And then they're like, "Oh, by the way, we're here now." So you gently got a bicycle and just rode around it. We had shots of snake whiskey beside the river there, and when you had a look at the waterfalls, and so that was one place I went, but I didn't go to any of these other places. So what was your arrival into a town like? You say you're arriving in Luang Prabang.
Yeah.
What time are you getting there? Kind of thing.
It was just before it was coming on dusk. Yeah, and we've been riding for days and days, and absolute knackered. And that's when we saw the first tourists, the first Westerners, because we were out on the back roads. We went to the place called the Death Road, and just absolutely mad places. And this is when we saw the first tourists coming to that place there. And we were absolutely shocked. We'd only been off the road for a couple of days, but it was that shock of seeing tourists again. you know. And it's like we were there for a couple of days, and it was good. You know, got massage and things like that. It's a beautiful city, and the night markets and things like that. And then we were quite happy to get out again. You know, we were going to get back out into those back roads where we were the only like sort of Westerners out there and stuff. You know, some of the people on those back roads had never seen like Westerners. You know, they're always pointing like that, going like that, and you know, you go like that, and they're all laughing and yelling and stuff like that. So that was quite cool. But
If they have seen a Westerner, it's been a small glimpse of them go past in a bus. Not how many? 12 of you
I think it was
coming
12.
past on
Yeah,
small bikes.
Honda ways with baskets on and tied, yeah, zip ties everywhere and stuff like that. Yeah, teddies all tied to them, and just yeah, we dressed them up as we went along. But yeah, they're mostly
Yeah,
just rattling, you know, rattling on. They're just like going, what?
they do. Yeah. So you went to Luang Prabang, and then where from there?
Faux Savon. God, the pronunciation is
Okay.
terrible. And then
No, that's all right.
Pekon,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it is. And then back to the capital.
So I mean, what was the group like that you were going with? People from all walks of life, or
Yeah, there were all we was obviously the trip was advertised on Small Bikes of Adventures, so we all had that kind of connection. We all kind of like had small bikes. We're on that page. It sort of went out from there. So we all really gelled. We were so lucky. We had such a great crew that everyone just sort of connected. And then by the end of it, we're all family. You know, it was
yeah,
everyone helped each other, like flat tires, broken down. Obviously, we had a few big crashes. Old Spud had a massive big crash and went over the handlebars. And, you know, anybody else would have gone home. But old Spud, they don't make him like that anymore, mate. He's a proper, like,
no,
hardcore Englishman. He's just, yeah, he got back up, dusted himself off. The dust has flew off, but he got back home. He
yeah.
had a chipped shoulder, torn ligaments. He was a
Oh
right
my
stick.
gosh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, that's
He's
insane.
hardcore, but yeah, and he went down on his face and his eye all swelled up and bloodshot eye and stuff. But, you know, he just kept on going, mate. Just kept on going. So yeah,
Yeah,
some big crashes, but yeah, everyone sort of came together and worked as a team. And so John is going to head back out there in November. He's going to do another tour in November,
yes.
and then next year
He had one spot left about 2 days ago. By the time this video goes out, it'll probably be taken. So too bad. But if you want to go on the next one, I'm sure there will be one
yeah,
wherever it is. So jump on Small Bikes Big Adventures on Facebook and follow that page because there really is some or group, sorry, because there really is some interesting stuff on there. Have you got any other notes about that trip written down that we've ignored and brushed over?
we did 1,500 kilometers. It was 8 days riding. We had 9
Okay.
punches, 4 tires, 3 engine rebuilds, 3 lost keys, 8 foot peg rubbers. We can all relate to that.
Lost keys. I feel cringeworthy about that more than anything. That like I would rather have my engine blow up than lose my key.
Yeah,
Yeah,
unbelievable, mate.
yeah,
Unbelievable.
yeah.
2 front brake master cylinders and 5 litres of oil. Well, that's not too bad
Wow.
for
Yeah,
bikes that
that's
have
not
been
too
down the
bad,
cross
really.
many times.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome. So, that was just like an absolute adventure of carnage, which is kind of the opposite of what my original trip was. And I did my Malaysia to Thailand trip, which is about 2,000 kilometers, 2,500 kilometers. I did that purely for a couple of reasons. I had a reason to go to Bangkok. I had someone to visit there, and then starting in Malaysia was just a logical place because it was next door, and I wanted to go over a border. It was that simple. I was like just looking on a map, and that'll do. And but we had a very organized itinerary as far as, hey, we need to be in this general area each night. We tried to book accommodation beforehand, and that meant that we made the mistake of looking on a map and on Google Maps and being like, that looks easy, 350 to 400 kilometers in one day, we can do that. And then you realize that, hey, there's 4 mountain ranges and your bike's not going to go faster than 30 kilometers an hour up them. And it turns out it's a 14-hour day on bikes. Like, did you have any days like that? What was your longest day?
I think we nicknamed this road called the Death Road, and that was early morning start, and we didn't get back until like nighttime. And that was obviously, yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't have to do many miles. It's just the conditions of the roads can really slow you down, and that's it. You know, you might have to do 140 miles, but that could take you 8 hours, 9 hours to do that kind of mileage because it's just the corrugations and the ruts and things like that. There isn't many good roads in Laos. I didn't.
No,
We found some in
it's
the
not.
mountains. We found some in the mountains which there was no one there. There were big asphalt roads, and but that sort of was a really good ride. But there's,
Yeah.
there's no roads there really. The
No, there's not
Laos,
much.
yeah. Welcome
Yeah.
to Laos.
Where did you get fuel in the middle of the day and stuff like that? Are you just going to a random
Yeah,
village with two families in it and saying, just pointing at your tank, or like how's it all working?
no. Laos got more petrol stations than Cambodia. Like it's all set
Yeah.
up. There's massive big petrol stations, and the attendants are normally next to the petrol station in a sun lounger, asleep,
Okay.
waiting
Mm.
for you to
Waiting
arrive.
for the next person. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, there's no shortage of petrol out there whatsoever. You know, I wait longer in London to get
Okay.
petrol than I did in Laos. So you can ride, and we
Okay.
can have any fuel, extra fuel, nothing. You know, there's no
Yeah.
problems with fuel out there. There's more fuel stations than I think there is of people.
I think one thing that I learnt from watching your guys' trip is that I would never do it on a Grom. 12-inch wheels. I love Groms. I love monkeys. I've ridden a lot of them. I think they're amazing bikes. And if someone gave me one for free, I'd probably ride it every day till it didn't work anymore. However, riding 12-inch tires on roads that are basically got 14-inch holes every meter and a half, ugh, it looked pretty. It looked like a acquired taste.
We had some
And you
brave
were just
riders.
picking keys out of a can, like the classic
That was
70s
it.
Kiwi swinger dinner.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. Get the keys out of the can. We were the guys that got the Groms were quite brave riders. You know, we had Danny from Essex, and
okay.
he just abused it. He just rode it till it stopped, and then he got
Mm.
rebuilt again, and then just kept riding. You know, he just absolutely just thrashed it. And then there was another one, and then the guy come off that, and he cracked a rib, so that was thrown on the back,
Oh,
and that was used as a spare bike. But yeah, they got hammered. Yeah, the small wheels on those conditions are just not really ideal. So yeah,
no,
if you're up for
not
an
at all.
extra challenge, yeah, take a Grom around Lao. Yeah, get extra
Yeah,
couple of gold stars for that
absolutely.
one.
So, you kind of had like the trifecta. You went to Sri Lanka. You spent how long there?
2 weeks in Sri Lanka, did a 9 day.
Two, like, yeah, 2 weeks, 9 days riding around in a tuk tuk and a rickshaw. You went to Laos immediately after that and rode for 8 days, having the absolute time of your life. You turn up home, and what's waiting for you almost?
Oh, Moon Carrot, yeah.
Yeah, a
CT
moon
one
carrot.
two five Gen 2, mate. Not the cheap ones, not the Gen 1s, the Gen 2 long stroke, mate. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
That was
So this is something that's interesting for a lot of Kiwis. We all kind of look at the world of small bikes. For those of us that like small bikes, and in New Zealand, you really can only get the Honda Monkey, the Honda Grom, the CT125, Honda XRM125, which is a Filipino-made dual sport 125 farm bike kind of thing, and that's not road legal because it doesn't have ABS. Honda did bring in the Super Cub 125 into the UK. They brought in the Monkey 125 into the UK. The Super Cub seemed to flop, from my opinion. Like, it sold, but it definitely didn't sell what they thought it would. And
no,
I feel like from there they went cold on the CT125. Would you agree or not?
yeah, totally. Yeah, the new Cub was sold as a single seater with no pillion pegs, and it was like, well, what's the point in that? They were a lovely bike, but yeah, it didn't sell. Didn't sell the numbers that they were expecting to sell. It was a lot of bike. It had keyless ignition. The batteries would
Mm.
all go flat. There was just too many faults for that bike because it's such a simple bike, and they made it complicated. They lost touch somehow.
Mm.
Lovely
And
bike though.
unlike a lot, I was going to say, unlike a lot of countries that did have the Cub back in the day, um, the UK is one of the few that still have had a lot of C90s around with people using them regularly. So there was an expectation to live up to. Whereas in New Zealand, Cubs had fallen by the way a long time ago and just were an enthusiast thing. So people had this expectation of this thing that always runs. It doesn't matter what you run it on. I think on the top 10 motorcycles in the world, like video years ago, Charlie Borman's throwing one off a roof and putting 40 pizzas on the back of it and
Run on some
all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and it works, and it constantly works. And you're right, they built the C125 or the Super Cub 125 with no kickstart, which I thought was a bit silly, especially when that exact same engine is available with both kickstart and electric start on the Wave, and it's the same motor. So they didn't bring in the CT125, but you've got one. So how do you have a CT125?
So yeah, they're not officially imported into the UK. So you have to go through an importer. So we do it through Seven Seas. There's a waiting list of 4 months at least, and I
Okay.
think there's over 150 people on the waiting list. And I was lucky enough to get onto that waiting list and got the bike imported from Thailand, which takes quite a few months to get in here. Um, in the UK, everything has to be insured. You can't drive or ride anything without insurance. I don't know. Is it in New Zealand? You don't have to have insurance still.
No, not yet. It's still not mandatory. No.
See that's one. You're so lucky with that because over here you've
Yeah.
got to have insurance and the prices are just out the roof. Being an import, insurance is a bit hard to get, but I've had it for a while now. But I've only just managed to get insurance for it, so it's sitting down in the lounge waiting to be broken into, properly broken into.
So do you say yes? And I know from what I saw, you get shipping updates of the ship it's on, and you watch it go through the Panama Canal, and then it comes up, and then yeah. So that's a really exciting part. But then again, I'm going to touch on another part. You don't have to be completely honest in telling me how much it costs, but it's not the same price as what we pay for the bikes because it's being imported. Seven Seas obviously have to make a little bit of cash there, but I don't think they're being unrealistic. However, the reality is it's not cheap.
No, it's £4,950.
Ouch! It hurts my feelings.
But the UK government put on tax at just under £1,000 to bring it in. Then you've got to have export from Thailand. Then you've got to have the brokers' fees, both in Thailand and in UK. Then you've got to get it registered. You've got to go through a testing station. And before you know it, all these fees go on to it. And the guys at Seven Seas, they don't make a lot of money out of it at all. I think why they're actually doing it, but it's the passion of the bikes. They want to be able to bring somewhere that people want. There's a demand for them. But by the time the fees go on it, they end up quite expensive. But people are selling them for what they paid for them. So it's one of the best. It's one of the best investments you can do. A lot of bikes you bring out, and you lose a couple of grand straight out just pushing them out. Well, these bikes are still holding their value. You get what you pay for them if you want to sell them.
I first saw the CT125 in the UK when Nathan Millward. Is it Millward? Yeah, he bought. If you don't know, I can't remember the name of the book. I'll add it in now. I've read it a lot of times. He rode a postie bike from Australia to the UK home because he kind of ran out of a visa in Australia and had to leave. So that's what he did. But he had 10.
Yeah. Dorothy was the name of the book. The bike.
Dorothy, yes.
Dorothy, yeah.
The bike. Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did the Sydney to London on a postie, and then he went to New York to Alaska as well on it.
Oh, I never knew that. I had no clue.
Because he rode all the way back to the UK and done an amazing journey on it, on Dorothy, the postie bike. And then he arrived in the UK to suburbia. And it's quite hard. When you've travelled around the world like that for long periods of time, to get back into the normal life and the run of things is quite hard. And it affects people in a lot of ways. And depression is a big thing that kicks in. And that's why you see a lot of people that do the world trips can't go into a 9-to-5 job. It's like a prison. You can't do it. So Nathan came back. And it just went all pear-shaped, and they were going to prescribe him pills and stuff like that. And he thought, well, I've got to get out of here. So he shipped his bike over to New York, and he rode to Alaska. And he just finally come to terms with everything. And he was all right after that. And he got back to the UK, and now he does tours over here with the. He imported a whole lot of Australian postie bikes into the UK.
Okay, yes,
yeah. But he rode them all the way across Australia with a group, and after the group finished with them, he brought them over. But he went right across the centre.
That's really impressive. And he had CT125s as well, which he has gone a different way, and he's flicked them off now. So he was the one that I found out about CT125s in the UK. You've got yours, and there's quite a lot out there at the moment. You bought one. You've got it now. What inspired you to choose the CT125 over everything else? You've never ridden one before, I presume, before that. I think you would never have had to worry about, it doesn't have enough power and it can't quite hold 60 miles per hour on the flat. That kind of yarn that everyone has that it gets boring because it's like, you should have known that going into it. But what was your reason behind getting this thing?
I saw a video of these New Zealand guys riding them on the back wheel.
That's not me, but it's a guy I know. Dan Williamson.
Mate, that's what I want. I want one of those. And and there was a few upgrades the guys had done on them as well. I said, but they were just. I thought, well, that's it. And there was such a demand from over there. It's anything with demand, people want, don't they? But I saw saw your video on that. I thought that's unbelievable. I really want something like that. I think you're one of the videos that has inspired me, mate.
My question for you, because was where we left off, was you'd just been watching a few different videos of people riding CT125s. You had seen people doing wheelies on CT125s and all that kind of stuff. I mentioned that some people get upset that they can't hold 100 kilometers an hour, uphill with 3 people on it. But Yeah, that's not really a concern for you. Where did your desire to actually hit the button and go and buy one come from?
I was looking for something a bit more off-road capability. I mean, I take the C90, or I like to call it the
Yeah.
C150 now.
Yes.
Off-road, it just gets absolutely hammered. You come back and this thing's
Mm.
hanging off and broken, and it's too nice a bike to smash about like that. So next best
Yeah.
thing is the CT. Kind of keep that small bike sort of ethos. Trying to keep with that.
Yeah.
And they're a lovely bike. Don't get me wrong. Like I have been out on it a couple of
Mm.
times, and they handle
On a
really well.
private road, officer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was closed road.
Yeah, with proper plates on and everything. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it handles like we was throwing into the corners, and it's really stable. I'm quite impressed by that. Really impressed.
Mm.
Obviously, you're just running it in, still quite new. Um, but this is the new. This is the Gen 2. This is the new one. This is the long stroke. So it's got it's gone up in the horsepower slightly. It's dropped a
Mm.
kilo in weight.
Okay.
Now has oil filter housing on the side.
Yeah.
Ground clearance has gone up by 5 mil, and it's got adjustable suspension on the back.
Okay. Okay. So there are a few changes there. I did wonder, and Honda's kind of interesting because Honda Thailand have this one basic engine design that they've thrown in so many bikes, and now you can get it in the Monkey with a 5-speed, and you can get it in the Grom with a 5-speed, but then they don't throw the 5-speed in the Supercar 125, which they do still release brand new editions of that. There's a 2023 edition out now, 24 edition out now. The Monkey. It does have a 5-speed, and they're going absolutely crazy with limited edition Dragon Ball Z versions, all these different like anime characters. They just bring out like 1,000, and they all sell within seconds. So they've got this real niche market, and I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things. Thailand doesn't really have to care about the global market with small bikes because they know they'll fulfill the demand locally. So they didn't put a 5-speed in it, which is a bit of a shame. But then again, that's just giving you extra ratios down low. It's probably not increasing your top speed. What do you plan to do with this? Are you going to, ride around the world or just use it as a daily commuter, or what's your plans?
I don't know. I haven't really got a plan for it yet. I know something will come up. Some diabolical plan will come up. Some weird place to go on. It will be
Mm,
something come. We've got a trip coming up soon with the boys. We're going to go to Ireland. Going to do a loop around Ireland. So it may end up in Ireland for a bit.
awesome. Yeah.
Going across the world could do. Yeah, could do. Could in my way back there. I'm not too sure. Yeah, but
Mm,
yeah, nothing quite. See, I'm going to do some trail riding on it. Uh,
yes.
but nothing quite. Yeah.
It comes with the IRC GP5 dual sport tires, which you've got probably on it now. There's quite a nice, beautiful little thing, and they do okay. And one thing I would say is if you've never had a small bike with ABS, which this does, don't be scared to rip that front brake as hard as humanly possible on gravel and off road. It's incredible how it just adapts. And I mean, big bikers who have big bikes with ABS are probably like, of course, that's just what ABS does. But for me, it's like, wow, you can brake going downhill with your front on gravel and not slide out because it just knows what to do. It's a truly impressive riding experience. I felt like you sit up real high on them. Do you feel like it's a bigger bike than your
Oh
C90?
yes, it's definitely a bigger bike. Yeah, it's got a bigger bum on it, and it's definitely higher. And it feels weird because I don't have I don't. I think you might feel that leg shields are a big thing. When you've been riding with leg shield for such a long period of time, you get on that. There's no
Mm.
leg shields, and you feel naked. You feel vulnerable. It's like this is just weird.
Yes.
But I've been riding with leg shields for such a long time. It's just absolutely. It's mad, absolutely mad. But
It, in Thailand, there's guys that have set them up basically like a small GS 1250. 1250 GS. They've got extra spotlights on extra chrome rack that bolts to the front rack there, and all this other stuff there. So yeah, there's so many different worlds. I even seen belt drive CT125s in Thailand. There's a conversion kit you can get for it, which to me seems a bit silly because. I've dealt with, I worked in a motorcycle shop for a long time, and we dealt with a lot of Harley Davidsons that had belt drives, and they've got a big thick belt. Even then, you get one stone in it, and the thing just splits in half, and then you've got no drive. So
oh wow,
I
okay.
don't know if that's it's typical Thailand where they're like, hey, this is possible, so let's do it, whether it's a good idea or not. Um, and I guess that's just kind of what you find around the world of small bikes. We just take chances and just kind of make things happen. So it's been really, really interesting learning about all of your small bike adventures so far, and I'm sure there's so much more we could talk about. I would like to say that as soon as I do get something printed somewhere, not the police vest, which is real, by the way, and I did not steal it. I'll tell you now. I'll let you know. Um, but the small bike stuff, shirts and stuff like that. I'll get some stuff sorted out soon. I'm going to try add a shop to my YouTube channel and
Don't rush, mate. Don't rush. It's only been 5 years. I'm not counting.
yeah, it's only been 5 years. Look, it might be five more, but we'll get there. Maybe I'll give them two in person. It'll be that long. Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we hit the nail on the head with this one? I think we've cracked up about an hour already, so we might as well slowly wrap up. You've got notes, so I'm more impressed because I've got like 3 talking points, and that's about it.
You know
and
what?
I just ramble.
You had your bullet points like that, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna start off with that. That's gonna be it, and it just went from the first to the
Oh,
last,
it did.
to the third to the second. I'd be sitting
Yeah.
going, did a smart card.
Hold on. Let's
CT.
find the right page.
Yeah, Laos, SBBA. Oh, we did the
Yeah.
Trans-European Trail on the Cubs. I don't know if you know.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah. So the TET, Trans-European Trail, sounds like you've heard of it. So we rode
the
all the
name.
way from Dover. It starts in Dover, this one. It's called the Great Southern, and then it turns into the Great Western, or the Great Western to the Great Southern, and pretty much rode all the way down to the most furthest point in the UK called Land's End. And we did it all off-road to go to the Armchair Adventure Festival. I don't know if you heard of those guys, Matt and Reese.
I have heard of. Yeah.
Yeah, first people ride around the world in a Honda scooter sidecar. During lockdown, they started up a armchair festival, which was just online to get everybody back into sort of like normality, but not on that kind of structural level. But that, and then they've gone out of that, and they've actually got a venue now called the Armchair Adventure Festival. So we were heading down there to help out. So we did it all off road and did the TET. Now this is normally just done on CRFs and the big bikes, and we headed down there with the vegan and the ginger all in our C90s. And you've got a massive response going, well, if you've done that, we can do it, And we posted some pictures, and it absolutely went viral all around the world. And I mean, we got more of a liking from Thailand and Vietnam and places like that. Again, we've known about the secret for years, like. Yes, and so we went down there. We had a ball, mate. We went up some pretty wicked places, And you just pick them up. Yeah. They were overloaded, of course, because we were camping. But that was just mad, absolutely mad. And so people look like, it's a C90. Anybody can do it now.
I think you're in a prime place for small bike adventures. New Zealand's a great place. It really is. Don't get me wrong, but there is just one big issue with New Zealand, and that's its location from everyone, which is also a benefit in many ways. But as you know, there's a thing in New Zealand called the OE, the Overseas Experience. Generally, once you finish school and finish maybe a couple of years in the workforce out of university, and you've done your studies, and you're kind of fed up with it all, you don't just leave New Zealand for a week or two, you go. Because we're so far away, you might as well just get it all out of your system and either not come back or eventually come back. And you did the first of those, which is not come back, which is fine. We don't hold it against you. It happens to the best of us. But you've got so many other countries nearby. I said on one of my last videos, one of the most mind-blowing things for me coming from New Zealand was in 2013, the first time I stood on a border of one country facing another country, looking across a river from Thailand into Laos, and seeing that there's a whole nother country there. And, in the UK, you've got, a tunnel that can just get you to another, part of the world in such a quick amount of time. Flights are an hour to who knows how many countries. So you're really, really lucky with your ability to go and adventure over there. And in fact, I looked at flight prices from the UK to Thailand versus New Zealand to Thailand at the moment, and you guys are getting a significant discount compared to us. You're really in a great place for small bike adventures, I'd say that.
Yeah, that's the big thing. It's about being, that's what sort of got me over here. It's like you started your adventure, and the adventure is only going to be, you start off for 2 years, and the 2 years ends to 5 years, and then go, I'll just do the 10 years. The next minute's 15, and then it just keeps going, and time goes so fast over here. And you're right about being linked up with places, and it definitely is. Once you're earning the pounds, it does make it a lot more affordable to be able to do those adventures over here, and that's what sort of keeps us a lot of Kiwis over here. I think there's 250,000 Kiwis over in London doing adventures.
Yes.
Traveling is quite a lot. Yeah, all over here doing it. But
huge.
I mean, I love New Zealand. I mean, obviously, I left there with a broken heart, and I left there with the police chasing me as well. So that was always quite fun. So get out of there.
We won't talk about it. They won't recognise you. Don't worry. It's been a while.
Good times, bro. Good times.
I'd love to ride with you someday. I'll be doing periodic trips, which are less off-road dirt clay focused than the small bike big adventures ones. So if you ever want to do a relaxing old man armchair style motorcycle adventure through some roads you've never seen before in Southeast Asia, then let me know. Next one will be in February. February next year, we'll be taking a small group, just about 8 of us, over and buying bikes and going for a hoon and selling the bikes at the end. So it'll be an awesome trip, and we can talk more about that afterwards if you want.
Funny because we're in Vietnam in February, March next year.
Awesome, sweet. Maybe we do a very close but far away high five from like one country away. We'll see if we can make it work. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, definitely. Because a lot of the people like we did Laos, like, let's crack on. Let's do another one. So yeah, John is going to organise one over in Vietnam. You can't beat Vietnam, mate. Yeah, love to go back.
You can't. It's great. It's great. And also they have before I get too sidetracked and keep talking for another hour, just for anyone watching, Ticket in Vietnam is a rental company, and they are the best rental company in any country in the world, because you can rent from them and pay $1 extra per day and you get full insurance, and your bike can literally get hit by a truck and blown up and you don't have to pay an extra cent for it. They've got the best rental system over there. It's owned by like a Danish dude or something. And they're in every main centre. And even Ed March went from buying all his own bikes on his Vietnam tours to the second one. They just went to Ticket and just got them and just rode, because then you could at least know you had a reliable bike to use every day, which is kind of a beneficial thing.
What's that name again? Ticket.
TIGIT. Jump on their website now. You'll love it.
Mate, you might have just saved us.
Yeah, 100%. Honestly, don't buy bikes in Vietnam. Like Thailand, yes. Laos, no. Malaysia, yes, buy bikes. Vietnam, don't even bother. There's just so many random brands over there. It's not even worth it.
No, there's too many Kiwis over there, mate. That's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah. You see the videos, mate. You know. Yeah, you guys, you're mad over there.
It's true. Hey, look, we'll probably wrap it up here, mate. I'll hit the stop on the recording and we'll keep having a chat. But look, thank you so much for taking the time. Hopefully I can manage to edit in our my internet disconnectivity era, and no one will even know until they hear me talk about it now. But thanks, Matt. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, cheers for having me there, Cal. Appreciate it, mate. Awesome.
Sweet.